All right, I ditched my original cold open because we got to talk about this. This has been bugging me for a while, and as a junior therapist, which I think is what I'm going to call you from now on, um, this should be of interest to you.
Is this a grind your
I
gears segment?
a little bit,
Okay.
but
Okay.
this is a pretty serious one though. I think
Oh,
personally.
okay.
Are you familiar with the concept of the Sunday scaries?
No.
Okay, this is you should learn that because as a therapist, it's going to be important. This is a condition that a lot of people experience in our modern 5 day work week capitalist society, which is basically Sunday, they start kind of freaking out about having to go back to work
Oh, yeah.
or school in some cases.
I've never heard it called that, but yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. So this is a real thing. I remember experiencing it. I still sometimes kind of experience it, although frequently I'm the opposite now because the weekend is when like Trisha's home and things are happening, and the week is when I'm on my own. But I have definitely experienced it. Trish experiences a lot. It is understandable and sad and a problem. And I saw a commercial for Oreo Thins that thinks it can cure it.
What?
Yeah, Oreo Thins, perfect for the perfect thing to deal with the Sunday scaries. That's what they say.
Wow.
I mean, fast forward 5 years, and people are going to be like, is your mental health bad? Are you suffering from depression and anxiety? Have you tried fried chicken? It's amazing. The,
Hmm.
F- the FDA has not commented on whether or not Oreo Thins will help with Sunday scares.
I mean, to be fair,
Oreo Thins are just a supplement. They are not intended to treat or cure any medical condition.
to my knowledge, there's no diagnostic criteria or
The,
diagnosis for
the Sunday
pre
scares
Monday
isn't in the DSM, is what you're saying?
or anywhere. I mean, depression and
Yeah.
anxiety are, but
Yeah.
um, the specific anxiety that people feel before going back to work on Monday. I don't know if that's even. I mean, that if you were a therapist and someone was complaining to you about that, that's definitely something that you would treat, but you'd treat it as this person has a hard time returning back to work after weekends.
Yeah.
It would be
For
treated
the
as sort of a
record,
general.
both of my therapists, including the grad student, knew what Sunday scaries were when I brought it up a long time ago.
Well, as I said, I've heard about that phenomenon. I just never heard it called Sunday scaries.
Oh,
I
junior
don't know.
therapists.
I don't know what it. I don't think it was called anything cute like that when it was explained to me. It was just described as an anxiety people feel
I
on Sunday evenings before they go back to work or school.
only encountered it on like Twitter years ago, but then I was like, what is this? And I looked into it. I'm like, oh, it has a name. But I mean, you're right. Technically, they're not saying it's no worse than 5 hour energy being like, hey, you tired? Wake up. But I feel like it's another one of these. We're not, mental health isn't a real thing. Like, do you have issues where you just are frozen into non-functionality all day Sunday and you don't do anything and you just lie in bed and play on your tablet because deep down you're just kind of freaked out that you have to go start another work week? Well, have a cookie.
I mean, when you think about it, pretty
But
much
have a
all
thin cookie. Don't have a big cookie. Don't have a regular Oreo. That'll just fuck it up.
right,
You
but
will go on
when
a rampage.
if you look at it that way, pretty much all advertising since the 60s has been trying to target a person's mental health issues and claim that their product is going to solve it or fix it.
I'm willing to
That's
go with that.
that's been the MO of advertising for a very long time. Very long
All right.
time.
So when the revolution comes, advertising, one of the first things.
One of the first things to co-opt, you mean? Because, you know,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I'm gonna murder a lot of advertising execs. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Magical Talking Cat podcast, the only podcast that's also a superfood. Eh? Eh?
Really good for the Sunday scaries, I guess.
Are you feeling sad? Have you tried eating our podcast? Uh, I'm Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 638.
638.
As in, you ate our podcast and you feel so much better.
For those of you just joining us, don't eat the podcast. It's a podcast. Don't do it. We have a hat. It is magical in that it has its own email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. People like to write into that email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com, with whatever the crap they want. And then the hat magically just forwards us the email, and we read them on the show and talk about them. And that's it. It's a pretty straightforward deal. How's your week been?
Just school, really. I mean, I'm sure I've watched something and I don't remember. Like I didn't tell you that I watched Thor Love and Thunder. I didn't tell you that I watched what's the other one?
You had wait. You
and
recently watched Thor
recently.
Love and Thunder?
Quantumania. Well, a few weeks ago, like not this week, like 2 weeks.
But much later than when I watched Thor Love.
And did you watch Quantumania?
No, I don't plan to watch Quantumania.
Oh, yeah, I watched both of them pretty close together, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe. I don't know.
And
I don't even remember. I thought they were both. I thought Quantumania was pretty standard for a Marvel and Ant-Man movie, and I thought it got panned a little. I feel like the cultural zeitgeist probably gave it a kick in the teeth that it didn't deserve. Love and Thunder was, in my opinion, not very good. It struck me as an example of when you take someone who's truly gifted, like Taika Waititi, and you say, all right, fine, you can just do whatever you want. You can't do that. I don't care how smart they are or brilliant they are. Whenever you take someone who makes good stuff, when it's a balance between their creativity and someone kind of, telling them when they're overdoing it, and then you say, all right, well, now I'm just going to let you do whatever you want. It almost never works out. And it's not because Taika Waititi isn't talented or any of those things. It's because people like him, that kind of person needs someone to sort of help them along to know, okay, maybe don't do that. Maybe you need to do this. There's nothing wrong with him. All human beings are built to collaborate, and you can't think that a person is so brilliant that they don't require some collaboration. And I think that's what it felt like happened, was that he was just given carte blanche, and this is what you get.
That's giving him far too much credit. I think this is a movie that happens when everyone involved doesn't give a shit and just wants to get it over with.
Well, I
very strongly feel Natalie Portman, Chris Hemsworth, and Taika Waititi in particular all did not care and just they were contractually obligated to do this movie, but they had other things they wanted to do. They were frankly sick of this bullshit, and they just wanted to get it done.
I mean, it did sort of look that way sometimes, yeah.
Like, I've seen Taika Waititi let off the leash, and it can cause problems. It's not dumb and boring, and this was dumb and boring. We actually got high for it and didn't find it entertaining. That should be medically impossible.
Well, especially with that
we
movie.
Were sitting here going, at this point, as bad as we think it is, it has to be worse if we were sober, because the one thing I liked, and I guess minor spoilers for a truly terrible Marvel film, the electrified child soldiers. I loved that part. just just a bunch of children suddenly using lightning powers to just murder. That was a fun time. My least favorite was every other thing. Okay, I like Chris Hemsworth's ass, and actually, I think Russell Crowe was cast very well, and I haven't said that in many years, but I think he has found his level.
I don't even.
Goofy, he was Zeus,
Oh yeah,
and it's not a great part. It's very suited for him and his present career, though.
yeah. It
And
just didn't.
also, how did the movie ruin Screaming Goats? Screaming Goats have been one of the best things to exist since we all found out about them, and that movie killed them.
Just feel like somebody could have told the director or producers or somebody that this isn't working. It's not. It's not working.
I do think you are right to a degree, because I think everybody involved, maybe it was Taika, maybe it was higher ups or whatever, was like, okay, Thor, Dark World, no. Ragnarok. Wow, this movie's insane and wacky and goofy, and oh my god, it made all the money and everybody loves it. All right, let's do that. Do like 10 times what you did before with that. Just go nuts with the goofy. All right, great.
It was just gag. It was just gags that were barely tied together with story or character development or anything else.
Yeah, no, and the story is a hot mess. It was a huge waste. Christian Bale also strikes me as somebody who didn't care about being there. He also had a interesting, if a bit uneven, character that just didn't fit in this movie, and also didn't get used. He's the god killer. We see him kill one god. Like, that would have been fun, watching him going around killing gods. That would have been badass. Nope. He shows up and does a weird accent that he wasn't doing in the beginning of the movie.
Didn't the pitch meeting say, "Oh,
Oh,
are we
yeah,
going to see that?"
yeah.
No. Well,
Nope.
I'd really kind of
Nope.
like to see that. No, we're not going to see that.
Mhm. It's also one of those movies where he's got a point,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we don't want to play with that. Yeah, it was awful, and I'm apparently still upset.
But I thought Quantumania was pretty standard. I mean, it wasn't a great Marvel movie, but it was a Ant-Man Marvel movie. I thought pretty standard, and it really got panned. And I think, didn't it come after Thor: Love and Thunder? Or
Oh yeah, I think Quantumania is the most recent other than Guardians.
Okay, so
Things have happened. I mean, Wakanda Forever happened after Love and Thunder. Love and Thunder's been out for a while. I mean, Love and Thunder's been on Disney Plus for a while.
well, in any case, we watched them both, and I thought Quantumania was, again, it's nothing to write home about, but it wasn't as bad as everyone said. I didn't think Love and Thunder was exactly as bad as everyone said, as far as I was concerned. And I fault the director, but you might be right. Maybe it's just everyone's phoning it in, and
I mean, including the director. Don't get me wrong, but
sure.
the whole thing felt incredibly joyless, which is weird to do for a goofy Marvel movie, for a funny Marvel movie, for it to all just feel. But to be fair, the MCU's been feeling increasingly joyless to me as it went on, which is kind of why I'm done with it. Although I do still want to see the third Guardians, and I'm sure I will.
But not in the theater.
No, I don't think so. If I went to the theater right now, I would see Across the Spider-Verse, definitely. I don't know that I will. I am no longer worried about going to theaters. I just don't want to go to theaters.
No, yeah, I get it.
But I feel like I should give it a shot. I don't know. We watched last night The French Dispatch.
I don't think I know what that is.
It's a Wes Anderson movie. So now you know everything about it.
I haven't seen it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
How you feel about Wes Anderson? Sorry.
Uh,
How do you feel about Wes Anderson films?
Um, I'm always fascinated by someone having a style that people can instantly recognize. Like that does fascinate me because I don't know how that happens, right? Like, how do you?
There's an ongoing thing on YouTube where people are mocking up trailers for movies as if Wes Anderson did them,
Sure, like
and
Star
those
Wars
are
and stuff.
fairly clever. Yeah, Matrix and things like that. Yeah.
And I don't know how that happens, right? I don't know how, like, when did, because before Wes Anderson had that nailed down, which he does, he's he's pretty flawless at it. He wasn't Wes Anderson. He was just some guy making movies or doing whatever he was doing. When he figured out what these films would look like, not just look, but look as part of it, definitely look as part of it, but also like somehow how it was shot and directed and written and acted, which the actors have to get it right too.
Yeah.
Um, as soon as he figured that out, he became Wes Anderson, and Wes Anderson becomes a thing you can talk about. That's
Mm.
that can be a a form of like a noun
Jazz
and a
could
verb.
teach a course on Wes Anderson
Yeah,
just by
it,
itself.
it can be a noun, a verb, an adjective,
Yeah,
and
things can be
it's
Wes Anderson-y.
yeah. I mean, so I'm fascinated by that. Not everybody does it, and if I were a director, I don't think I would want that. I don't think I'd want people to look at 3 frames of my film and go, "Oh, that's a something William Wright did." But I'm fascinated by it. Now, for
Or hear a list of 3 actors that are in it and know it must be his, because that's
right,
another thing.
but as far as Wes Anderson films go, I do enjoy watching them. I don't rush out to the theater to watch them, but if we're looking for something to watch and there's a Wes Anderson film that I haven't seen, I'll go, yeah, let's give that a shot. And I will be entertained by it, but I'm not going to be over the moon about it probably. I don't think ever. It's just he's just really an interesting person to watch how he makes movies to me. What about you?
Well, full disclosure, I've never seen Rushmore, I've never seen Royal Tenenbaums, I've never seen Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I've never seen Darjeeling Limited. I have seen Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I've seen Grand Budapest Hotel. I've seen Moonrise Kingdom. I've now seen French Dispatch. Uh, those are all the Wes Anderson movies I've heard of. To me, I don't know. Trish and I had very different views on this. I mean, I should take it. I should step back. We enjoyed it. It's a fun time. It is more than other Wes Anderson movies done in a sort of anthology style
Hmm.
that I think maybe lends itself to Wes Anderson. So that may up its credit a little bit. Trish thinks she doesn't like Wes Anderson, and she thought this was the least Wes Anderson movie she's seen. But when she tried to explain why it wasn't as Wes Anderson-y as other ones, because all the movies I've mentioned, I saw with her. So I think we've both seen the same Wes Anderson. When she tried to explain it to me, we talked about it a few times, and I kind of get what she's saying. I don't largely agree with what she's saying. It felt like a Wes Anderson Wes Anderson movie to me. Like, and I enjoyed it. It also uh has every person who's ever been in any Wes Anderson movie is in this movie. Like major talents in many cases play very small roles. And actually Trish thought that could be part of it because uh Bill Murray is a critical central character in this film, but because of the nature of the film, he doesn't have a lot of time in it. And what he does is cast in a very certain way that suits an older Bill Murray very well. And she doesn't particularly like Bill Murray, and he's often very front and center in these kind of movies. So she thinks that could have been some of it too. Um, I enjoyed it. It was a good time. It's very pretty. I am sure if I was a student of filmmaking, there would be a lot of very specific, interesting, fascinating things about Wes Anderson movies. I find them charming. I find them somewhat witty. As time goes on, I find them less witty. I find them attempting to appear witty. Um, they are loaded with amazing actors. That's the big thing about this is the cast of this movie is such that they could sleepwalk through it and it would still be relatively entertaining. It's remember I talked about that weird movie where it had Malkovich and Glenn Close and Patrick Stewart, and I was like, the movie sucks, but they just have such talent, whether they're trying or no, that it made it watchable. Well, this movie, every single cast member is that kind of talent, and so it's very watchable by its nature. This is a fun time. More Wes Anderson movies. I'm just gonna say it. Wes Anderson movies seem the epitome of masturbatory. Wes Anderson movies seem to me, look how clever and quirky I am. Wes Anderson movies are the Manic Pixie Dream movie. And the older I get, the more bothered I am that that much money got spent on a dude jerking off. I'm like, this is a real quirky, very self-satisfied. Every Wes Anderson movie thinks it's amazing. Wes Anderson movies seem very smug to me. And they're fun and they're clever and they cost more money. They, I enjoy them, and I also think they're a sign of late stage capitalism.
So when you watch Rushmore and Royal Tenenbaums,
Mhm.
and I recall these movies, they do seem less,
Wes Anderson-y.
yeah, less
Wesy.
so. Like I can kind of see him developing the aesthetic as he went along. Probably the that other, I haven't seen the underwater one. What's it called?
Yeah, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
I haven't seen that one. I think that's the first one where his aesthetic really came on strong.
I
think
think
the
that
other
it
two.
might be the first Wes Anderson movie Trish or I ever saw, and we did not care for it.
Well, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people who liked Rushmore and Royal Tenenbaums didn't like it. And that's part of the reason I never saw it, because all the people I knew who liked Rushmore and Royal Tenenbaums, which was just about everybody I knew, didn't like it. So I haven't seen that one, but I have seen some since that I thought were Budapest Hotel or whatever. I thought that was really good.
I really like Grand Budapest Hotel. Trish doesn't remember it as fun. I mean, she liked it fine, but it didn't really stick with her. I really enjoyed Moonrise Kingdom. But again, they're all just pretty and witty and entertaining and very they're this I mean, they kind of are the same movie.
Well, don't
He's
you
kind
do you
of making
think?
the same movie over and over again, and I
Yeah,
don't.
I
It
wonder.
feels weird to me.
So
I
when
don't.
he made,
I enjoy watching them. I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess that's fine, but
when he made Rushmore, let's think about Rushmore for a sec. Let's just
let's
analyze
think
that.
about Rushmore
Yeah,
for a
let's
second.
analyze the heck out of this. Rushmore was about
Four stone presidential faces.
no, it's just the name of a school, and
Oh, okay.
it's about a student in a prep school.
Played by Jason Schwartzman.
Right. You kind of wonder if it's not a little bit autobiographical. And now every movie that's come after seems like it's made by that guy. It's just like that guy's career after he gets out of prep school and he's making movies. You should see it. I think it would really give you insight into Wes Anderson.
Yeah, I don't know if I want that. Uh, I have seen an interesting theory that there's a through line in all the Wes Anderson movies, and that actually all the movies are being told from the perspective of the young female lead in Moonrise Kingdom as she grows older. And in fact, at least one of the characters becomes an author. So the argument is that all the movies are her sort of writing her memoir. The timing a little bit works, but the big thing that works about it is because Wes Anderson uses the same actors all the time, it makes for interesting what part they play in every episode of her life. And it's an interesting idea. I don't know. I spent a long time being like, I really need to see Rushmore and Royal Tenenbaums, especially Royal Tenenbaums. And now, as I know a little bit more about them, and time has gone on, I'm like, I don't know that I'll enjoy them. I'm not saying I think they're bad movies. I'm not sure they're. I think they will make me feel bad. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, French Dispatch is on Max right now. It's about 2 hours long. I guess I would recommend it. And I mean, when I talk about all of this shit, it's nothing compared to how much money, say, was spent on Transformers, like the movies. So like, and talk about masturbatory. There's literal robot balls in one of those movies. And yet somehow, no, there literally is. Yeah. I'm excited though. Jordan Breeding's next series recap is going to be the Transformers movies, so I'm excited because I only saw the first one. I think because Wes Anderson is held as this like high art kind of thing, because everybody's like, I'm like, oh my god, they spent all the movies on Transformers, and even people who like him are like, I know, right? It's just trash, but whatever, it's fun. But everybody's like, oh no, Wes Anderson's amazing, and I'm like, but he's kind of just doing the same movie. He even has the same cast at this point. They're fine. It's good. I don't dislike them, but I'm
It's
not
kind of
ready to
funny
give him
you would
a whole bunch
you'd
of.
say that he's considered, I don't know, high art or like a almost an art house film, because I would say that because of the standard aesthetic and all of that and telling the same story over and over, it more meets the qualities of folk art really than high art. I mean, it's not even necessarily, it doesn't necessarily even address what most people I think would consider high-minded themes or anything like that.
No, but I believe it is enjoyed and consumed primarily by bourgeois white people.
Bourgeois white people like folk art. They like antiquing.
That's
Like,
true. Wes Anderson, antique your way through cinema. Um, there are some great performances, of course, and including a couple of people, mostly playing small children, that I didn't know before that did great jobs. Uh, Outside of Dune, this is my first serious time seeing Timothy Chalamet. I don't know if he gave a good performance or a bad performance.
yeah.
I don't I don't know. Like, I mean, it was a perfectly fine performance, but the character was such that I'm like, is he nailing a very quirky Wes Anderson character, or is he stumbling over a character that should be different?
I think
Um,
I've seen him in one other thing, and he struck me as this person that, like, I see why people think that he's, an actor. There's something about
yeah.
the way he does things that leads you to think he's really studying it out and really putting a lot of work into it. But that doesn't mean it's good. And I don't really, I can't really connect with him usually when he's in stuff. I don't know why.
This prompted me to be like, how did he become famous?
Well, because
And
of
because
that,
the
because
and
he,
the truth is apparently he did a lot of TV for quite a
uh,
long time.
yeah, I think that's true.
I
Yeah.
th- I think now looking over his filmography, I think Call Me by Your Name was what really. He was on a couple of big TV shows in recurring parts, but I think Call Me by Your Name is when I first noticed him because everybody was talking about that movie, and I think that's sort of where it started, but I don't know. Also, it does because it's Wes Anderson. It does have some killer lines in it. I think my favorite was Jeffrey Wright got to say, I'm gonna fuck it up the first part, but it's uh, uh, something about essentially being bad at cartography. Pause. The curse of the homosexual.
What?
Yeah, Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Well, this is how Wes Anderson lets us know that the character in question is homosexual, because we didn't know that up to this point. That's that's called showing and not telling, even though it's literally done in voiceover narration. But
Okay.
it cracks me up because it makes me think of how heterosexuals make such good coffee. Heterosexuals make good coffee. Homosexuals are bad at cartography. Those are the only true stereotypes out there.
Oh man, I can't believe you remember.
Are you kidding? I have dined out on that story more times. My
I forgot
favorite
all about
actually
that.
is to just drop the stereotype in the conversation and see if anyone will pick it up. Like straight people, but they do make great coffee, and sometimes people just let it slide, and those are my favorite. They're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Okay, let me tell you a story." It's arguably the funniest joke you've ever made, so I feel like you should hold it closer to your heart.
Okay.
All
Hmm.
right, let's see what else. Oh, I have something that I keep forgetting to talk about, so I wrote it
Hmm.
down. Um, so the teenagers next door, the Nibblings, um, we were at a choir concert for the youngest one, and afterwards we are all out in front telling him what a good job he did, all that. And the oldest said something. I mean, the oldest teen talks, and it's hard to pay attention, and tells me slay all the time. In a way that I'm just like, I'm not even positive how Gen Z defines that term, but you're using it in such a way that it can't possibly mean what you think it means. But anyway, uh, but at one point he says something about, oh, about Tree Fitty, and I was like, "You're the Loch Ness monster, aren't you?" And he cracked and it turns out he is in the process for some reason of just sort of going through South Park. So like I forget, the other night at dinner it was a different line that I very clearly recognized from South Park. Um, but yeah, I thought that was, I was like, I wasn't even, I was like, did he say, he didn't say 350, he said Tree Fitty. I was like, you a Loch Ness monster? And I told him how one of the listeners on the podcast once made an account as Loch Ness Monster and asked me for 350 on Facebook. That is always a fun and probably frustrating thing if you're a parent or whatever. Thing to watch is young people discovering something that's been around since way before they were born. My particular favorite was when Moulin Rouge came out and their new version of Lady Marmalade was on the radio. Uh, Actually, you know Wendy, who we used to work with. She's driving in the car and her daughter's there, and it comes on the radio, and Wendy starts singing along, and Wendy's daughter is aghast because how does Wendy know any modern pop songs? And she's like, this is a remake. This song is very old. This song is from when I was your age."
Yeah.
Like I always love those kind of moments. Yeah, so we've been having them discovering South Park is weird like that. And also because some of South Park has not aged well. So that gets a little weird. But um did I mention before we're watching Mandalorian season 3 now? We are knee deep in that, I believe. I believe we have watched 4 episodes. It's fine. I'm I'm on the backslide. I'm like, I don't dislike it, but it probably should wrap up soon. It is starting to feel like it could overstay its welcome. And I love Grogu and I love Pedro Pascal. But although I do think it is really obnoxious, they completely just glossed over. Clearly, between seasons, they souped up that little baby crib that floats around that he has.
Mm.
Because there is a scene where that shit Mood. That is a goddamn sports car. That thing is banking and zooming, and I'm like, I did not know baby Crips could do that, even in Star Wars. But yeah, that's it. That's it. It hasn't been a particularly interesting week, which is fine. I like it that way for a while. Like, I did see some friends today. You've never been there. There is a bakery in Iowa City called Deluxe, not to be confused with Crepes Deluxe, which is downtown, which is a creperie. But there is a French bakery on Summit called Deluxe. It's right in the middle of houses. I'm a little surprised they got zoning rights. And today I met some friends there. I had a friend who was coming through town, and this morning was the only chance to see him, so we all got together. It's a lovely little place with some lovely little baked goods. I had some quiche. They had some espresso drinks. It's very nice. I would highly recommend it if you live in Iowa City. Go check it out. All right. Give me an email. Give it to me. Give it.
I think we should on the podcast congratulate Jazz for her casting of young versions of us.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't that the kid that played Bran in Game of Thrones, I never thought of him as someone like who would be cast as me, as a young version of me, but she's exactly right. He would be perfect for that.
I have literally never seen that actor except in clips of him playing Bran, which are almost always him doing really horrific things to people.
Yeah, I mean,
so it was confusing, but
I'm thinking
he's
mostly
got
of
the
his
look.
Yeah, I'm thinking mostly of the look. There, he does resemble me when I was that age.
I am overjoyed to be the little glasses kid from Jojo Rabbit. Like, except weirdly, I feel like that kid has to go through some pretty serious trauma to end up as me. And clearly being a little baby Nazi during the end of World War II didn't do it, because he still seems fine at the end of that. So I don't know what it is that would fuck that kid up enough to be me. But I see it. I was definitely him when I was little. I cried more, but I was pretty much him.
So anyway, the emails.
But yeah, good job. Only person who did it. But also the rest of you probably looked at it and saw what she picked and were like, I can't follow that.
So the emails from Jazz, subject says casting director. That's why I thought I'd bring up her excellent casting work. This question was prompted by a thread on Facebook where somebody had proposed that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson should play Michael Foucault in a TV show movie about modern philosophers. And Jazz thinks he does look weirdly like Foucault. But that got me thinking about some group of people you could all cast. What occurred to me is that you could try casting each other's novels. You and I casting each other's novels, I guess. But happy to hear other ideas. You can even proceed with the modern philosophers if you like. I threw in Dissect was most interesting man in the world for Derrida, which to me is just appropriate in a number of ways.
Isn't it pronounced Derrida?
Oh, probably. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone pronounce it.
Heard that. I've only heard it.
Okay, well, you're probably right then, because I've never heard it.
Or they're all wrong, which is definitely possible.
I don't know. Well, what do you want to try to cast?
Actually, I want to take a hard left and ignore all of this for a second.
Oh.
Do you ever get... Okay. Linguistics is funny. What's the deal with linguistics? No. So, there are aspects of language that speakers of other languages don't hear the difference. Great example is because there is no L in Japanese language. Japanese learning English, there is a strong struggle with R versus L. which is what created a lot of terrible stereotypical accents. But it is a real thing because there is no L. And in terms of what your mouth does, R and L are very similar. There are also ones like my wife used to work with a woman from Ghana whose name was Nana. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that to rhyme. And she would sometimes say, like, because she was fine with how they all said, but she'd say, like, actually, you aren't pronouncing it right. It's not Nana, it's Nana. And Trisha's like, those sound exactly the same to me. So I am aware that this is a thing. However, when I can very clearly hear, and this is not, writing is not involved. This is 100% people have been introduced. Hi, I'm so and so, or people. This is my friend so. Like it's not like I saw it's not like Derrida, like we just had. When I can very clearly hear that a different English speaker is drastically altering the sounds in the name, I get so angry. And I have such a hard time understanding. I went to school with a guy named Iresh. He and I worked together at the student union thing. One of our bosses, who was perfectly nice, and called him Irish constantly. How do you do that? The same one I talked about, Nana from Ghana. Again, apologies. I'm not trying to rhyme. There were coworkers who called her Nana. And I got mad one time. I was like, you hear that you're not, that's not what that is, right? I mean, people wouldn't, it's like if somebody called you William. Like, no, it's, and it really bugs me because I feel like there's so little, and one that has been getting me lately, because apparently it's quite universal in British worlds, the last name Davies. How do you pronounce
that? Actually, there's an author that I like to read, Paul, and his last name is that. But I've heard him pronounce it.
Read, but okay.
I've heard him. I'm pretty sure I've heard him pronounce it, and he pronounces his name Davies.
Yes, which is a definite possibility. The name is Welsh, and it is traditionally pronounced Davis. Some people pronounce it Davies. And I understand also that as you move on, this happened. I've run into people, the Irish last name Docherty. I know Americans of Irish descent who pronounce their last name Doherty. But in Ireland, it's actually pronounced Docherty. And actually, I had somebody in this country who got annoyed with me at pronouncing it wrong, but whatever. And I get that. And it's fine. Davies, whatever. Except if I come to you and say, hello, my name is Greg Davis, why would you later refer to me as Greg Davies? And we're all English speakers here. We're all native English speakers. Or this is how it comes up, because there are two guys that I know in comedy in Britain. One is the guy who does Taskmaster, who's Greg Davis, and one is the guy who does QI, who's Alan Davis. And both their names are spelled that way. And there is no consistency in how people say them, except when they say their own names. I don't remember which. I think Alan also goes Alan Davis. Greg definitely is Greg Davis. And yet people around him, people who work with him, people who are ostensibly friends with him will refer to him as Greg Davies. So do people not hear the difference, or is everyone just an asshole?
I mean, I'm sure that I've gotten people's names wrong before. Not that I couldn't hear the difference, and I don't think I'm a mean or bad person. I think for me, if it's ever happened, it's been because psychologically, I picture the name, and that's part of how I remember their name, not how I've heard it, but how I store it in my brain as a written word, which is dumb, but that I think I have done that sometimes, and I needed I've needed
Have
to
you done that repeatedly in circumstances where you hang out with this person and watch them introduce themselves to other people?
No, I probably would realize that I keep remembering it wrong, and I try to think of some strategy to correct it in my head. Yeah, probably. But I wouldn't insist on calling them the wrong thing over and over and over again. But then again, I'm a pretty self-reflective person. I mean, some people might not even notice that.
Because they're assholes.
Well, I mean, you can look at it
But
that way, I suppose.
this has always been the thing for me. I've famously talked about a person I met at a summer camp who was Hmong. She's from Laos. Well, she wasn't from Laos, but her family's from Laos. And her name was Sherry Lee, spelled Ly. And not only was she fine with people fucking it up and pronouncing it lie, she started introducing herself that way. Not because she liked it better, but because it was just easier. And as a person with an incredibly white name that nobody has ever fucked up for any reason, except for some reason to try and spell it with an I sometimes, I was incensed on her behalf. I was like, it's your name. Come on. But
there are some names that I have a hard time pronouncing, like we worked, we've mentioned the our Belgian friend who we worked with,
Gert,
Gert,
yeah.
but I mean, it's not Gert, it's
Well, that's the thing.
whatever.
As I understand it over there, it's Gert.
I think you just
But
got it exactly right. But that's hard.
really hard to say in
Yeah.
English.
Yeah.
I still would work, and I'll be honest, his is a name that I probably called him a different version of it every time I talked to him because I was never confident. Gert was definitely not right, but I was like, Gert. I don't know.
I continued to call him that because he seemed okay with it. And I didn't just want to be screwing it up all the time. So if he's okay with that, then that's what I'll do.
And
because I knew I was going to screw
there
it up.
There is a white person thing of I love your name. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Which we all think of as a nice thing, but is really a weird sort of exoticizing of the other in a way. Like, oh, your name is weird. We didn't have to stop and say, am I pronouncing Tony? It's the same thing of like asking pronouns, but only asking it when you're not sure. There's a little bit of that with, am I pronouncing your name correctly? But that's what I'll do usually. If I'm like, they said it, I don't think I'm saying that. I'll be like, okay, I want to get your name right. Help me out here. But everybody else is just assholes, I guess. All right, back to the email. If you had pronounced Derrida correctly, you would not have had this problem. Anyway, was Foucault like really jacked?
I don't know.
How does Dwayne Johnson look like Foucault? How does a philosopher look like Dwayne? How does literally anyone who's not just a pro wrestler look like Dwayne Johnson? That's insane. I do not think he would be a good casting choice as any real character because I do not believe he can act. I believe he can play Dwayne The Rock Johnson. So if Foucault, I don't know Foucault's philosophy either. If he was very much in the frame of, smelling what you're cooking, people's eyebrows and people's elbows and things like that, then maybe it's a good fit. But otherwise,
well, I mean,
these are all things related to Dwayne Johnson's pro wrestling.
When you talk about casting, there's sort of a philosophy you have to sort of, not related to philosophy in the email, but a philosophy you sort of have to take on as terms of what's your casting orientation, so to speak. For example, are you looking for someone? Is this really a question about what actor can you think of who looks like this person, historical person, or who can be made to look like them? If that's really what you're asking, casting directors do more than that. They, sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with the person looking like the person at all. It's really about, who can, bring the performance.
But sometimes it's only about that. There have been, I believe there was a biopic of Tupac Shakur a while back that apparently was quite bad, which is why I hadn't heard of it until recently. And really the only redeeming thing about the main character's performance was that he looked an awful lot like Tupac, but he didn't sound or act like Chewbacca.
But in contrast to that, there was a biopic of I'm drawing a blank on. You'll know when this was a biopic where several people were cast in the role, including Cate Blanchett. There was a man, a singer.
Oh, David Bowie.
No.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry, Dylan.
Yeah, Bob Dylan. God, why did I just blank on Bob Dylan's name? That's so weird. But anyway, that was an interesting casting situation where many people were cast, including a female actor. And it was really good. I thought it was very good. I thought the whole idea of casting different people like that really worked.
And it was very deliberate, though. I mean, that's
yeah, but casting can be as complicated and involved and interesting or as superficial as you want it to be. If you can just go looking for someone who looks like the person if you want.
well, but let's step out of this because I have also biopic or biopic.
Well, I think I used to say biopic until I heard other people saying biopic, and I realized, oh, that's what people say.
I see. I've spent my whole life saying biopic, and then discovered some people say biopic, but also depending on the pattern of your speech and the sentence structure, sometimes it's hard to tell which you used.
Yep,
if you go fast enough in things, it can be hard to tell. Biopic always sounds weird to me. But I don't think there's a set def. I think it's I don't think there's consensus.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't think there is a real one. But I'm not sure.
Using a different one because that's what everybody else said. I mean, because we've talked about this before. When you see something in print, you come up with some, like I just did with that name. I've never heard anyone say the name before, ever.
There's an argument that mispronouncing words is a sign of a well-read individual for that exact reason.
Anyway.
Because you've only seen it written down. But biopics, I kind of hate that they exist. And is a whole thing. Let's set that aside. Let's cast fictional people. Do it. Cast some fictional people
that have never been cast before. You mean like from books?
Yeah, probably. Otherwise, it would. Yeah. Let's do.
We could cast your book, like Jazz said. We could cast your book.
All right, that's a hard one. Well, it's also that one's especially hard because it is a lot of the characters are based wholly or partly on real people. Not actors, but the main character is, well, arguably the two main characters in the book are both me. But the protagonist is based in part on my niece. Physically at least, and age-wise sort of in there. And then yeah, some of the side characters, the Gina, the coworker, is based off of a character. Sorry, is based off of one of my coworkers when I worked at that newspaper. So it is hard to tell. I have very strong images in my head of these people. None of them are images of specific actors, so it gets harder. I guess I would say older Mel is solidly Idris Elba looking. And I think he would do well in that role, which is a very tricky thing to say, but I don't want to spoil any aspects of my book. It's complicated, but I do think that the older version of Mel, in my head, looks like Idris Elba, and I think Idris Elba would do a good job playing that role. I should have a good one for Maria. The problem is Maria is fairly inhuman looking, in my opinion. And so I always picture her sort of CG or animated almost. I get a strong Angelina Jolie vibe, but I think that's part of, and I hated this movie, the CGI Beowulf. Did you ever see that thing?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did not like that movie. For a variety of reasons. But the presence that Angelina Jolie gave in that movie as Grendel's mom, that sort of presence is what I often picture for Maria. So I
Mm.
could see that. I don't know. You throw some out there. This will force you to remember characters from my book. You painted yourself into a corner.
It's funny because when I read a piece of fiction, I'm realizing I never thought about this before. I'm realizing the picture I paint in my head of the characters don't resemble anybody I know or actors or anything.
Me
I mean,
too.
they're totally different from
And as
anybody.
often as not, they're animated. They're not real people a lot of times.
Sometimes for me too, yeah.
Not in a
Just
way that I consciously think about, but when I think back later, I'm like, yeah, those ones were cartoon, but those ones were real.
yeah. Um,
There should be a really easy Verlaine.
what's that?
Oh, I just cast Abraham.
You did? Because that's
Toby
funny because
Jones. Toby Jones.
Toby Jones.
The easiest way to remember, he's in a whole bunch of things. He's very prolific right now, which is why I finally know his name. The easiest way to remember is Zola, the little Nazi scientist from the MCU. From Captain America, Red Skull had a little scientist who did everything, and then later in a different movie, he had digitized. Okay, um, I don't know. You've seen him. You've literally seen him in 5 things this week. He's in everything.
Okay, I just don't remember.
Hold on. He's a character. He's a hardcore character actor, such that he's in everything, and you don't necessarily stand out. I only finally have been like paying attention to him. Um, and he's not usually cast in this kind of. No, that's not. Get back here. That's definitely not it. It's. Oh, that's because that's not his name. Jones. There we go. Here we go. What is he best known for? Um, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. He was somebody named Claudius in the Hunger Games. Yeah, he's Zola. He's in the new Indiana Jones.
Oh wait, I think I'm remembering now who you're talking about. Was he in? Did he do one of a Truman Capote thing?
Very possible because he looks an awful lot like Truman Capote.
I think he did do a Truman. I just looked him up. Yeah, I know who it is.
Yeah.
You'd want him for Abraham, huh?
It's out there. It's not intuitive. I freely admit that. Um, if not him, then the guy whose name I don't know, who I think of as who you get when you can't afford F. Murray Abraham. There's a guy for that.
There is a guy for that. What is his name?
Specific guy.
Yeah.
I remember him first as being the mentor of the alien dude in Star Trek SG-1. Remember, our core group had one alien dude played by Chris Judge. His name was Teal'c, I think. There are some times where his mentor shows up and is played by this guy. And I think that's the first place I've seen him, but he's in everything now. He plays a lot of vaguely Spanish, vaguely Italian priests. He basically just plays everything when they can't afford F. Murray Abraham, and he does a great job. But it's a
I'd
very
audition.
similar vibe.
I'd audition for Abraham. I remember thinking, I can see myself in that role right there.
Too tall, too young.
That's true.
Abraham is little and very, very old.
Yeah.
Um,
he looks it. That's the thing.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah.
I never think of myself as too tall, but you know, I'm always seeing myself in photographs and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like super tall. I'm taller
I
than everybody
told
in that
you,
picture.
I just saw today a friend at Deluxe Bakery. So before we left, we got a picture taken, of course. And she's small. I've always known that. But holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that happens to me too. I'll be in pictures. I won't even think of it when the picture's taken, but I'll be like, oh my God, why? I feel like a freak. Like when we worked at Applied and we get our picture taken of all the managers, I'm pretty sure I was taller than anybody else. And I was much taller than some of the other managers. And I was like, oh my God, I look like a
How
circus
tall are
freak.
you?
Well, I mean, I think when I'm wearing my boots, which usually have a, they don't have a thin
What's
sole.
the height on your driver's license?
I don't know. I 6'2",
What does your
maybe.
doctor think your height is?
I think without shoes on, I'm only 6'1", but I think when I wear my boots, I'm 6'2".
Interesting.
I mean, aren't I as tall as you? Aren't we about the same height? Or are you a little
I
taller
would
than
have
me?
said you were taller than me.
Oh no, I'm not taller than you. I don't
I
think.
am solidly 6'1.5", and it really annoys people, but I'm like, I'm dead on. Like, I do not know which, when I default, because apparently it's a thing, everybody wants to be tall, and so when I have to, I'll say 6'1", but I'm 6'1.5".
Well, if I
Um,
am a little taller, it's because of my boots. But if
you
I
do
was
wear
wearing,
you do wear some big old fucked up platform boots.
uh, they're work boots, and they do elevate my height a little bit for sure.
Platforms like this, and it's
No,
got like live fish swimming in
no.
it.
But I mean, I wore those boots. I think when I was. No, I don't think so. I think I wore pretty standard shoes, but I was taller than everybody, all the managers, and I hated it because in pictures I just stood
And
out
in
like
my
everybody
head,
else.
I'm not particularly tall because I'm the shortest man in my family. My
Mm.
father was 6'3" and my brother is 6'5". He is a
See,
monster.
my dad's 6'5", and I don't think I'm the tallest male in my family either. So I
Uh,
just don't even really think of myself as being tall.
Supposedly average male height is 5'9". Supposedly.
Well, another issue I have with height is when I'm sitting with people. So most of my height is in my legs. So
Hmm.
when I'm sitting with people, I don't look tall. People who walk into a room and I'm sitting down and they're not really paying attention to my legs or anything. They don't really think of me as tall until I stand up and then they go, whoa, I
Yeah.
didn't realize you
You're
were going to be
that
so.
dude from The Simpsons in the little anthology episode where he was driving the little car and his knees were up here and he got out and he was really tall.
Yeah, it's kind of like
This
that.
was the largest car I could afford. Do you think I should be mocked for that?
All in my legs. So
Uh,
like my torso is the same size as everybody else, but my legs are
I've
really long.
never been super confused about my height. I have been very confused about my fatness, in that my mental image was always much thinner than the reality until COVID. Now I'm going to pause here. I want you to figure out how the fuck COVID would have changed that.
Uh, don't know.
Zoom. Zoom and teleconferencing in general. I see myself constantly.
Oh,
And
hmm.
I've done that enough. People talk about like people who don't want to turn on their cameras and things because they don't like seeing themselves or whatever. I've now done it enough that that looks like me to me. That's what I look like. And and I've seen myself in like larger full body versions, so I'm now basically as fat as I think I am. But it's because COVID required me to get on camera and see myself on a very regular basis until it normalized my actual real image.
I think because since I was 12 years old, I've had hobbies and friends that I record things with. I've heard my recorded voice so much in my life that I don't have the experience a lot of other people have when they first hear their recorded voice. They're really surprised. Oh, is that me? No, I don't get surprised. That
And
sounds
I
like
still have that. because while I will record myself in a lot of ways, I never play them back.
Oh, yeah. I've
I
heard my
still sound
voice.
weird to me. I don't know if it's universal. My voice is much deeper in my head
Yeah, I think that's
than
true for most people. Yeah.
is that. I wondered about that.
That's
And
what
it's
it
too
was.
bad because my voice has so much more gravitas than what I hear when I do it. It's no good.
You know what else surprises me?
I mean, so many things.
Yeah,
Just
so
the
many things.
world.
But sometimes I'm caught off guard by the fact that other people don't know what's on top of the refrigerator. I don't know why that surprises me, but I'll be talking about something and where is this thing? Oh, well, it's on top of the refrigerator. You know that. No, I don't. I can't see on top of the refrigerator. And I'm
I
like,
have
oh, sorry.
I have done that where people are like, "Can you help give me this thing?" And I'll walk in and it's just like right, and I'm just like, "Why did you? Oh wait, you're very tiny." And that's the thing. I am used to how I look. However, I did forget that my friend is like 2 foot tall and 13 pounds soaking wet because I haven't seen her in a while. And so I made a joke when we were taking the picture that she was very short, and she's literally like 3 months younger than me. So we're the same age. And she said, "Yeah, I haven't grown since you last saw me," which I'm like, that's fair. But when she sent me the picture later, and I was like, "Oh my God, I look like I'm going to eat her." Um, I think it's super fun to cast my book. I also notice how you swept by having to remember a single character of my book there. You switched it up just
I
in
don't.
time.
I can't remember any names. I would have to like this
Uh,
character. You'd have to remind me of the name. But
well, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Cast one. Come on.
I that's the thing that I'm having a hard time with because all I can do is picture them in my head what they look like, and I can't.
Well, and then who would be a good actor? They don't have to look like it. Who would be a good portrayal? Yeah, because to be honest, when I picture Abraham in my head, it's a very small, very emaciated Brian Cox. But Brian Cox would not do well playing that part. You got to get beyond that. Come on, you're a casting director. I hired you for this to turn my book into film.
No, I'm terrible at that.
Come on,
I'm terrible
give
at
me the
casting.
money back. Come on, you got to
That is
do
the
one.
one responsibility I would love to give to somebody else is to
We are
cast something.
already over time, but this is a partnership. You got to do one before we leave. I can wait. It's your own
So
time you're wasting.
I wonder if McKenna Grace, she's a little young for your lead character, but I wonder if she would
Who's
have the
McKenna
range.
Grace?
What's that?
Who's McKenna Grace?
Oh, she's a child actor. She's not old enough yet. Well, maybe she is.
Well, do keep in mind the character is partially Latino and notedly has darker skin.
Oh, well, no, not her then.
I mean, if we're going old school, um, if we're doing the whole thing of how do I put this exactly? If we're doing equity in our casting, which means uh groups that are marginalized and that very seldom get cast to play their own type of marginalized character in films, kind of like how a lot of voice actors we switched to having actual black people lately and stuff like that. If we are going by those rules, then Rebecca has to be Jamie Clayton because I love Jamie Clayton and she would fucking nail it. And because I literally can't think of another trans woman character or actor. But I also love Jamie Clayton, so I'm fine with it.
That's another problem is some of your other characters, like for some reason I'm thinking of the demon that's like, big with the horns.
Oh,
And all
the gender neutral, the non-gendered one,
like
Amurat
any.
with the big
Oh,
horns.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm thinking
Actually,
that character. I'm thinking, well, that wouldn't be like you wouldn't cast that person, right? That would be like a voice or something.
no, you absolutely would cast it. You would there would be heavy CG, but I just casted it in my head. And it's specifically because they're only in that one scene. They only have a few lines, and I largely remember what they are. So, and again, based on my mental image of that character all this time, Melissa McCarthy.
Oh, well, I never
I
would have
think
thought
she
of
would
that.
nail that part.
I never would have thought of that.
I'm surprised I did. I think part of my brain already thought she was playing that part. I'm really kind of surprised.
Yeah. Mm. Okay, but see, that's part of it is,
Uh,
you talked
Ann
about some
Taylor
characters
Joy
being
would do a
CG.
great job of Kylie. Speaking of that same scene, the the giggly psychotic one in the spiky armor.
Okay, but
I don't know
again,
that she'd love the part, but I think she'd do well with it.
you could.
Actually, Margot Robbie would do better.
It's hard for me to imagine those just like you said, CG being part. Maybe not all of them. I don't know why I'm thinking of that scene, but
Jared the Devil, Adam Scott. Okay, he's not necessarily my first choice, but he would do good. He would do good in that role. Michelle's a hard one. Michelle's a difficult one, and she shouldn't be. I don't think Michelle's character is tied up in an appearance to the same degree, and not just because she shapeshifts. Michelle's a very difficult one. All right. If you read my book, cast it for me on the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com, or put a YouTube comment in about it. Who would you cast as various characters in my book, Oddwings? If you haven't read my book, fuck you. Also, go read my book. It's called Oddwings, Oddwings, all one word. You can find it on smashwords.com. You can also look up Anthony K. Parsons, and you should get to the same place. It's like $3. I have it on good authority that it's good.
I can't cast any of my books at all. I've tried to think about it because even when I wrote them, I thought I really, what I would love for these to be like TV shows or movies or something. I even thought about it in that context while I was writing them, and I could never. I mean, I didn't create any of the characters with an actor in mind, and I just can't.
I mean, I can give you one.
Okay.
Brian.
Who would play Brian?
Nick Offerman.
Wow.
Nick Offerman would act the shit out of Brian.
Wow. I mean, I would never thought of him. See, that's what I mean. I would never thought of him. But you're right, that would be good.
Sharon's hard, but that's partially because Sharon was white when I read it, and then later you told me she was black, and we saw the passage, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Lethan did I think I did picture someone while I was writing Lethan, and I think it was like William Shatner or somebody. I mean, that's not who I'd cast now, but I think while I was writing it, I think I was thinking of him a little bit. I don't know why. That's it.
The Omar?
Omar, yeah. On the other side.
And this is a problem because his name is Omar. I get strong Antonio Banderas vibes, like young Antonio Banderas vibes off of him. But to be fair, I had a weirdly specific and possibly not accurate or flattering image of Omar. He had a very sort of Captain Jack Sparrow thing going.
Oh, okay.
In my head.
Yeah, I don't know. Omar, yeah. That's funny you should pick him out. I nearly forgot about him.
Well, it took me a minute to get his name, but I got there.
Yeah, so I just didn't have anyone in mind. If I were making a film or someone said, "Hey, we're adapting this to a movie," I'd say, "Well, cast it yourself," because I have no idea.
The queen in the third one in the opening scene.
Oh yeah, well she's in the first one also.
Oh, is she?
She's just on the other side. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Denai Guerrera if you want to be safe, but
Mm.
I think Michaela Cole deserves a shot at it. I think she would do well with it.
She's from Grinnell, I think.
Is she? Oh wait, yes, she is. Her parents taught at Grinnell. We've had this conversation. She's not technically from there, but her parents taught there, and so she lived there for a fair bit of time.
She would be good. Yeah, that's a good
I
suggestion.
want to give it to Michaela Cole though. I think I want to see her play with it, but both would be good.
I would, whoever cast it, I would say, well, another problem that I have in casting things like, my book or whatever, is I generally have a preference in casting. Like if someone said, okay, William, we're going to do your book and who would you like to see in it? I immediately would think, well, can't we find some new people?
Right.
like for for all of the roles, but like even couldn't we find an older actor who's been working hard in Hollywood, to play Lethan? And couldn't we find, why do we
Well,
have
the good news
to
is if you ever get to make a movie, I'm pretty sure those will be your only options. Unknowns. So I do have a little trouble. Tian Lee in my book, I stole the name from a coworker named Tian Lee. And so in my head, I just always picture that coworker. And in fact, I thought it was a lovely, wonderful thing. So I told it to her one time. And I should say we knew each other. We had been in a couple meetings together. Like we weren't friends or anything. She acted just fine, but it was later I was like, I think that was actually a creepy thing to say.
Yeah, who knows?
I have a lot of all right, people. You could also check out Williams' books if you want, whatever. I mean, I said Nick Offerman, so go check it out. See if Brian would be good for that. Aethertheater.com, .org, .net, .gov,
It's .com.
.ninja is .com. Welcome to a website. Go check out all the Williams stuff there. Go to the blog. Please email in. I have made a concerted effort to do better about emails, which means we need more emails. So please write in themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com and really play around in the space. Think about different things to email about if you want. Like mix it up a little bit. We can give advice. We can sing songs. We can tell you how you're wrong about things. We can that's it. Those are the only three things we can do. Give advice, sing songs, tell you you're wrong about things. I guess there's some overlap. Check in next week. And in the meantime, why don't you try casting your own novel? William.